You may have used HOC, higher order component, in React to enhance the component capability, and we can take a similar approach when it comes to the JS bundle. So we want to first load the page and then retrieve any JS bundle that is needed only after. So some of the JS bundles, they gotta come in first, for example the CSS, but some of them they can come up later. So let's take a look what we can do. The first thing is we want to create a build to see what's going on right now. So if you do yarn build and serve, that's going to create us a production build on a local server. Since we're using port 3000, it's going to put it on a different port, usually port 5000, unless you program it differently. So let's wait until the optimized production build is going to be completed. Hold on. Once the build is complete, we're going to get a message serving localhost 5000. So we can go to that URL, and this is a simulation of our production build. So it's creating us a local simulation of the production build. Now, if you right-click and inspect to use the Chrome DevTools, if you're using Chrome, what we can do, we can check what's going on in the network. So if you click on the network tab and reload, we can see our bundles. So here's our bundles. So the CSS comes in first, that makes sense. And then we have other bundles coming after. And then we have the service worker and other things. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that all those bundles are needed to load our page. So we can move some bundles that are not necessary, and we can lazy load them. This way we can just use the bundle that we need to load the page and lazy load whatever else that it's not necessary for the page. What we're going to be using is we're going to using the Google Chrome Labs quick link, and using the quick link we can lazy load some of our component. Let's take a look. Go back to your project. Let's stop serving because we're going to have to build again. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a development flag for Webpack route manifest. And this plugin for Webpack is going to add it's going to add for us the route manifest. You'll see it when we're going to open our when the installation is complete inside of your package JSON. You're going to see a new code inside of the dev dependencies. So let's wait until the installation is completed. Okay, the installation is complete. Now look at the package JSON and look for dev dependencies. And you can see that we got Webpack route manifest 1.2.0 added for us because of this installation. Another thing we need to install, let's clear that. Another thing we want to install is we want to install the quick link. So just do yarn add quick link. Okay, now the installation is complete. We can go back to our app router and we can program it to lazy load whatever we want. So if we go to the app router TSX, if you look at our component, we're writing two pages. We have the root page, the slash that's running to app, and then we have the rectangle that's pointing to the rectangle component. Now when we first load the page, we don't need the code for the rectangle because we can lazy load that and load that when the user goes to that page. So to do that, we need to take a two-step process. The first step is we need to import our with quick links from the quick links module. So we need to import it from quick link and distribution and React, and in React you'll see HOC.js, and the library we want to import with quick links. Now ESLint is not going to like this because we're trying to import a JS library, and it needs to be declared. So what we can do is we can add the type. One approach is, let's do that. Let's just add the type. You can see it gives you, the ID gives us a message that it's missing the types. So here's the command. We're using yarn. So yarn add, and it's a developer dependency. Quick link. Then while we loading that the types, the second thing we need to do, looks like it wasn't found on the, they didn't set up a registry for TypeScript. So what we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to ignore this. Or you can create the type yourself, but in this case I'm just going to ignore it. So I'm going to suppress the message, and I'll throw in a ts ignore. Okay. The second step is we want to create the lazy load for the component. So the way we're going to do it, we can, before we create our app router, we can create a constant, and let's call it my page, and the type is going to be lazy, and we're going to import the component we're using. This is our component, rectangle, and then we need to also specify, let's close it. I'm missing a tag. Okay, import, then we can close this. Another thing we need to set up is an options for lazy load, and this needs to be an array, and you can set origins, but I'm gonna leave it empty. There you go. I imported the lazy, and now that we have the my page and option, we can just use it. So first of all, we don't need the rectangle here anymore because we're lazy loading, right? So that can be removed. And now when we go to the component, what we can do is we can, instead of calling the component, we can call with quick link, and then we can pass my page that is mapped to the rectangle and the options. My page is camel case. Okay. Once this is all completed, what we can do is we can just build another build version to check the difference. So run yarn build serve, and let's wait until it's completed. Okay, once the build is complete, go to localhost 5000 and let's reload the component. You can see we have our CSS in two chunks that they're smaller in size right now, and once I click navigate to rectangle, then I got the two chunks added. So it's lazy load those chunks that are needed for for this component. Now I'm going to point out one con and one pros for this approach. The pro is that now we have static page, and our main page load quicker, and then only once we click on that route, then it's going to load it. It's going to load the other JS and CSS file that it needs. So the page is going to load faster. And also, if you want to put, because we have static page, if you want to put for SEO title, description, unique for that specific page, now you can do that. You can use library like Helmet. So there's a library called for React called Helmet that will allow you to create unique title and description and metadata for that specific page. So that's the pros. On the con side is that if your app is not that big, it doesn't worth it because there's redundancy in code. So it's probably worth waiting 20 millisecond, you can calculate exactly how long you need to wait, but it's probably worth waiting a little bit more millisecond, and then your app reacts better. So when you load it, you won't have a little bit of a delay. You see there was a tiny little delay that you saw the loading here if you watch slowly. If you really watch it, it was really quick, so it's tough to see, but you can see it if you keep reloading it. So it's probably worth, if we're to load everything at once, we won't have that tiny little delay. So 20 millisecond or a tiny little bit of time, or even 200 millisecond may be worth it, and then you don't need to keep loading pages, and then there's no redundancy of code. So it's an approach. I'm not saying you should be using it. I'm just giving you a way to kind of preload and lazy load some of the component.